this video, we're going to talk about probably the most complex portion of managing programs. Again, I've emphasized it many times, but you can always reach out to our support team. We're glad to make any programs that you need. So if you get stuck in this area, just let us know. But I do want to make a video to make sure you understand how conditionals work when you're creating a program. So click on Profile, Manage Programs. Now I want to start again with our Interchange Plus. So let's click on Details and take a look at this program. Now, if we look at this program, we can see that our default here is 50 basis points of markup. And while that makes a lot of sense, the problem is, what if our minimums over here, we see a minimum of 15. Well, what if those minimums change based on the volume of the merchant? So what if we actually need maybe 3 different programs? We need one program that is for merchants that do over 30,000 in volume. And for them, we're going to set them at 25 basis points by default with a minimum of, 10. Then if they do 20 to 30,000, we're going to do them at a different level, and under 20,000 at a different level. Well, what should we do in that case? I mean, one thing we could do is go ahead and create 3 different programs and clone it, but that's going to create a lot of complication, and it's going to be very frustrating down the road because really it's not really a different program. It's just that it's a different conditional that says, if the volume is less than whatever, we want to use this fee. So we have something called conditionals exactly for that purpose. So let's go ahead and create, so we have this one here. Let's go ahead and add a conditional. So we have 50 basis points, a minimum of 15. Let's click on Details here. And let's actually change this. And let's say that the minimum is going to be 40. So we're going to save this. So this one, it's going to start at 50. It has to be at least 40. Let's click on the details again here. But we're going to add a conditional. And so we're going to say default of 50 basis points, minimum of 40. But that's only for merchants that are doing less than $10,000 in Visa, MasterCard, Discover volume. So we can click on these different conditionals here. We can say if the VMD volume is less than 10,000, save. So we now have this conditional here, and so this fee is now only going to show up when the merchant is doing less than $10,000. Okay? So what about when the merchant is doing $10,000 or more? Well, for that, we're actually going to go back to the program here. So now that we're back here at the programs, let's go ahead and add a new fee. And let's call this one the medium volume. And again, we're going to set this to Visa, MasterCard, Discover volume. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're naming your fees, you cannot name any 2 fees that are the same type. You can't give them the exact same name. So we can't call all of these the VMD volume. We have to call the one low volume, medium volume, and high volume, something like that. You do have to give your fees a different name. Okay, so, and we just do that to make clarity. You'll see when you actually look at the proposal, you're going to want things to be named a little bit differently. So now here we have the name of the fee. So now let's put our default at, let's say 25 basis points. Cost is still 5. And let's say that our minimum is, maybe we're allowed to go down to 15. And we're going to save that. Now, so we now have that medium volume in here. And I'm actually going to edit this. I'm going to click on Details, the one we just created a second ago. Let's go ahead and edit that to say low volume instead. All right, so let's save that. So now you can see we have our low volume and our medium volume. So our low volume has a conditional. We now need to add a conditional for medium. So we say, when does this fee apply? Well, let's make a new conditional. It's when the VMD volume is greater than $9,999. So if it's 10,000 or more, then this fee is going to show up. Actually, we want to make this 99 here too, $9,999.99. So that way we don't miss anything in there in the middle, just in case we randomly got a merchant that had $999,000.50, then we'd have both. So we have our little operator here. We're going to click Save. Okay, we need to actually create one more conditional though. We need to say, and it's got to be less than $20,000. So we're going to save that. Okay. So there you go. So this one, the 25 basis points with a minimum of 15, that's going to show up on anybody from 9,999 up to 20,000. You know what? Actually, let's edit this and make this 30,000. I think that'll be a little more realistic. Save that. Okay. So let's go back to our program, and then we're gonna add one more for our high volume. Okay, so we now have our low volume and our medium volume. Let's add our high volume. So new fee. We're gonna put one in here. We're gonna call it high volume. The type of fee, we're gonna apply this to all the Visa, MasterCard, Discover volume. Now we're gonna say our default is 15 basis points, still 5 cents of cost. And you know what? Really, a lot of times a processor may even have a lower cost if they do over 30,000. Maybe they only have 3 basis points of cost. So ask your processor about that. Sometimes they'll have high volume discounts on cost. Then you're going to go minimum. And so let's say on the minimum here, we'll allow them to go down to maybe 8 basis points because these are the really big accounts that we want to get. So we now click save. Here it is. Let's click details. And now we only need to add one conditional to this one. And that conditional is when the VMD volume is greater than 29,999.99. Okay, and if you remember the one we created before, it had a conditional of less than 30,000. And so if it's greater than this, then it would be 30,000. So you got to think about it a little bit. Again, that's why I say conditionals can be a little tricky. You got to make sure you got it all covered, every penny covered, so that you don't have a situation where you're doubling up the fees or a situation where no fees are showing up. So now let's go ahead and click on quote, and let's actually just try this out. So let's do a quick service restaurant. And let's try one with 8,700 in volume, okay? And let's say they've got $320 in total fees, and click create. And let's see what kind of fee that we get. Well, if we go down here, we're going to see that we have the low volume 50 basis point markup, right? So that makes it really, really obvious and clear. It's the same program, but it's low volume. Well, what if we went back or what if we even just edited the proposal, for instance? And what if we edited the proposal and said, well, no, they actually, let's edit this merchant activity here. And you know what? We'll just create a new quote for the purposes of this one to keep it simple. So let's create a new quote. And let's say we run a new one at at 12,000 in volume. So this is not low. This should be in the medium range. And we'll put this one at 425. Click create. And now you're going to see that the low volume one doesn't show up. The medium volume shows up with 25 basis points as our default. And again, it also has those minimums in there to keep it from going low. Then let's go back and do one more quote. Let's say we got a really big retail clothing store and they're doing $80,000 a month in volume. Okay, and let's say that their fees are $1,800 a month. Click on save. Or create there rather. Now if you go down, you're going to see, well, this one is automatically put at the high volume 15 basis points. So one of the great things about the new version of the tool is these conditionals, and what they really allow you to do is just to create one program that contains many, many different things. And there's a lot of different applications to use this conditional, but basically if you have a fee and you only want that fee to apply in certain situations, that's what conditionals are used for. One other example I'll give you real quick and then we'll end this video. If we go back to profile here, I want to show you one fee that's there by default. So again, this Interchange Plus is the one we've been working with. Let's take a look down here at our PIN debit monthly fee. Now, if you notice this PIN debit monthly fee right here, if you click on it, you're going to see that there is a conditional here. Well, why is there a conditional here? Because a PIN debit monthly fee should only be charged if the PIN debit volume is greater than 0. So this is just another example. It doesn't have to be, basis points. It could be any number of things. You may have a fee that you only charge if there's American Express, or a fee that you only charge if their volume is greater than, whatever. So these are all great conditionals that you can use, and these conditionals will really help you to dynamically create programs that are really going to help to make the process a lot simpler on the user experience when you're actually out in the field using the tool in front of a merchant.